is our blockchain week and our next panel about cryptocurrency and crypto management. And let's start with short introduction. Our speakers, ladies first. Annabelle.
Yes, hi guys. Hi, my name is Annabelle Huang and I'm a partner at Amber Group. We're a global leading crypto finance service provider and we have offices in Hong Kong and Vancouver, in Korea, and in Singapore, across the world. And we help our clients buy and sell crypto, and we provide liquidity, asset management, and treasury management services.
Okay, thank you so much. Calvin.
Great, well, thank you everyone for having me. My name is Calvin Shen. I'm the head of sales and business development at Hex Trust. Hex Trust is Asia's leading digital asset custodian. We focus on institutional grade custody with a particular focus on traditional financial institutions and basically trying to serve as the bridge between traditional finance to digital asset finance, starting with bank grade custody.
Takatoshi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your audience. My name is Takatoshi Shibayama. I'm heading the APAC business for Copper, which is a crypto prime brokerage service. We're based out of the UK, but we have branches in the US and in Singapore and Asia. We provide not only custody, but liquidity, OTC liquidity, leverage, DeFi extension, staking, etc. For the crypto investors. We focus on not only crypto native funds, but institutional investors as well.
And Musheer.
Hi, everybody. My name is Musheer, as Manana said. I am the founder and managing director of FinStep Asia. FinStep Asia is a venture builder that works with innovative firms across Asia in building their go-to-market strategy. I'm also the co-founder and board member of the FinTech Association of Hong Kong, as well as the co-founder and board member of the Global Impact FinTech Forum. In addition to that, I'm very actively involved in the startup and FinTech ecosystem in Asia, bridging the ecosystem between India and Chinese startup ecosystems. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys. My first question, what about the crypto management? Where best near-term investment opportunities in this year and beyond, like the next maybe 5 years? What do you think about like the pandemic outcomes? How it should be long, how deep, and how it can change our environment? Annabelle, what do you think?
Sorry, I can't really see the question list. Could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, let's talk about actually crypto management and what is the best near-term investment opportunities and how the pandemic can change this environment and what is the next big thing beyond like the next maybe 5 years?
Sure. So, I mean, I think pandemic really provided a great macro backdrop environment for investing in Bitcoin.
I'm sorry to interrupt, guys. Annabelle, you don't have any video image here.
Oh.
Yes. Okay.
Huh. Hold on.
I think we lost you for right when you started answering the question. Oh, there you go. Okay, back again.
Sorry.
Yeah, just start all over. That's okay. Just start all over with answering. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. So I do think the pandemic in the past 2 years really created a great macro environment for investors looking to allocate their capital into Bitcoin and other digital assets. I think, like Kathy Wood mentioned in one of her pieces, I think the opportunity cost of not allocating into Bitcoin is simply too high, just because now it's an over $1 trillion asset class and it's anti-inflationary. So it works well as a macro hedge, and that's why we're seeing so many US-based institutions investing into crypto and being really public about it. And over here in Asia, from the institution and high net worth individual clients that we service, we're also seeing that trend of them really thinking about their portfolio management and hedging these macro risks by also allocating 5 to even 10% of their assets into Bitcoin. And I think this is a trend that's going to continue for the next few years. We live in a low rates environment. I don't think that's likely changing anytime soon. So for the next 3 to 5 years, we might not have a bull market that really lasts for 3 years, right? This price action is not really that sustainable, but I do think just with the ecosystem and so many more people, more sophisticated people participating in the digital asset space, I do think that the growth trajectory is going to continue.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key here is definitely macro trends, and I think, you know, obviously pandemic has been terrible for the world, but, you know, from a financial market perspective, you know, even prior to the pandemic, we were already in this world of low interest rate, low to in fact negative interest rate, and, you know, with this pandemic, it really just prolonged this macro environment. In fact, from the fiscal stimulus perspective, there's obviously a lot more money supplied in the market, which really pushing down the real value of assets globally. Where else can we find value? Whether it's from a real term, inflation adjusted perspective, or just from a relative value perspective. And there you go, enter, you know, Bitcoin with the likes of cryptocurrencies, which obviously, you know, as evident by the prices, you know, of Bitcoin as kind of barometer of overall sentiment in the cryptocurrency market. I think, you know, the data suggests that, you know, portfolio investors globally are shifting into this, you know, this nascent asset class. And I think we're just at the very early ending of it, right? And that's really why, you know, how Hex Trust was found in the first place, was to really provide security and the compliance for these large traditional asset managers, and now corporate treasuries are into the market as well.
Okay, thank you so much. And Takatoshi?
Yeah,
I
fully agree with everybody. What this pandemic, and not only this in pandemic, but ever since 2008, the developed countries of the world are has lowered their interest rates and has really pushed retail investors, institutional investors to almost speculate with their investments. You know, and I see this situation prolonging for much longer than we probably assume. Just look at the case in Japan. You know, I used to joke with all of my friends that ever since I started working, I never earned a bank interest in my life. Japan has been in a lower interest rate environment for nearly 2 decades plus, and you know, there's no way for the governments to increase their interest rates because the amount of interest rates they have to pay on their government bonds. So I think more and more these asset classes that are, you know, considered speculative is going to be a target for a lot of these institutional investors, and as everybody alluded to, more and more traditional institution investors are coming into this space. And you know, if you have to compare with your crypto native hedge funds, these guys have so much more capital to deploy into this industry. So I totally see this market becoming much bigger in the coming future as these traditional investors come into this place.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you so much. And Musheer, what do you wanted to add to this?
Look, it's a holistic, it's a macro trend, as it were, that with the pandemic, many people have gotten looking towards not just crypto, but it's even at fintech, right? That's where it all started off. It showed the power of digital. And with one thing we have to be very mindful of is the main reason I would attribute to the growth of the cryptocurrency fund management and investment world is regulations, right? Enabling regulations which bring in players like Hex Trust and others to actively offer their services to the institutional clients makes a big difference. A large institutional client will not touch the asset class unless they feel that the regulators are going to be comfortable with it, and that's where it has been. And as we see more mainstream players coming in, that's likely to grow. I think that's something that everybody agrees. Question remains is beyond Bitcoin, what happens? I think Bitcoin is the key, the prince, the OG, as it were, of cryptocurrency, and that's where everybody like it. But what about the rest of the market? And that is going to be what the next 2-3 years will kind of filter out. What will be the portfolios outside of Bitcoin and possibly maybe Ethereum? What will those look like will be the big question.
Guys, and what do you see like a new competitive advantage for the blockchain and maybe decentralized finance, maybe NFT? What shall be next for the future of money and how it can change the regulatory and regulatory actually landscape for the protection of our data, maybe something like a new rules for the government, for the new blockchain economy. What do you think? Give us more insights. Annabelle.
Um,
Is it like look like the global casino or a treatment fund? For the millennials, actually, yeah. Look at the Reddit. It was like the huge, actually, like a change market for the Wall Street. How it can change the millennial capital too.
I mean, it's definitely interesting, right? What we saw over just, the Reddit platform and Wall Street Bets. I think that's, and then people start arguing, what happened with Robinhood, banning some trading, and people are saying, where can I find a truly open and fair trading platform? That's, I think, where DeFi could come in. And I am a true believer of DeFi, and I actually got into crypto space first through DeFi, before kind of coming to crypto finance. So, and I did see the value of utilizing the underlying blockchain technology to help improve a lot of the ways that traditional finance process are done. And then now I think it really evolved into growing a lot of the more crypto native functions or features that we can see, and that's where innovation comes in. I think that's the more interesting part of really utilizing blockchain. And to your question, right? I think probably crypto got its hype because it was more like a gaming center or casino. A lot of people wanted to get rich fast, and that's why they wanted to trade really volatile assets on leverage. But I think we're seeing less of that now. We're seeing more sophisticated traders or institutions and more smart money flowing into the market. And like everybody agreed, right, this is going to be a continued trend. So as this market becomes more mature, so to speak, then I think, right, it's going to gradually become more mainstream. And I think that's what we all like to see. And as Musheer pointed out, right, once regulatory landscape is more built out and there's more clarity, then there will be more traditional finance or traditional asset class spilling over into crypto. Or I guess it's more like, Bitcoin or digital assets will eventually cross the chasm and make it into the mainstream asset class.
What do you think about NFT, like digital assets for the investors? And maybe it should be like you advice for the millennials. Like what is the best forward thinking investment strategy for the young investors?
In terms of NFTs, I guess as a secondary market trader, it's hard for us to really understand things with no liquidity. Like the price discovery process is very different. Of course, I'm personally interested in art or in fashion and in content, and a lot of these bigger players are coming into the space, like big name artists, big name platforms. So that's interesting, but I wouldn't say I'm personally an expert. So I would like to see how it eventually evolves. And I think that the idea that all the assets can be tokenized, that's perhaps more interesting. And we might find more applications on the back of that. But I think we're still perhaps a bit far away from seeing really mainstream adoption. But who knows, maybe the next growth hack is going to come from NFTs. And in terms of investment advice for millennials or Gen Z, I think I don't think this is specific to crypto. I think any investment, right? Just do your own research, know your risk and reward profile, and I always recommend my friends to just allocate a portion of their asset into Bitcoin, not going all in or anything like that, because it is a very volatile asset. So if you can't sleep on your positions overnight, that means you have too big of a position and you should downsize. So I think really just figure out what your risk reward profile is and do it accordingly.
Yeah, Annabelle, thank you so much. It's so smart. Thank you for advice. Calvin.
Yeah, so quite a few things there, right? So starting with NFTs, right? So NFT obviously kind of the latest buzzwords that everyone's talking about, catching pretty obscene value just for this token, right? That's what most people probably don't understand. But the reality is, I mean, this market it's just a prime example of digital representation of value, right? So it's basically kind of what cryptocurrency is and building on top of the blockchain technology itself. So, NFT as a potential asset class was obviously small at about 250 million last year, but I'm sure that's going to see exponential growth this year and perhaps beyond. But I think more importantly on that, and kind of that goes back to your earlier question, with DeFi, decentralization. I think the important thing here is that the blockchain technology itself, which underpins cryptocurrencies like Bitcoins and NFTs. What blockchain technology is, it's really a cost-saving measure. It means that it kind of bypasses intermediaries and provide kind of a true peer-to-peer kind of transactions. And we know that intermediaries typically not only all else equal, slows things down, but also add on cost to it, right? So even from prior to my current role at Hex Trust, I was working on fintech startup in San Francisco where they put application of home equity line of credit on the blockchain. And basically, because of the transparency and mutable nature of blockchain, it was estimated that it saves about 150 basis points off of underwriting costs as they go through securitization, which is pretty typical of loans, at least in the US. And then so I think the technology itself, I think it's kind of be the disruptive nature going forward. And then lastly, on your point on millennials capital allocations, coming from a traditional buy-side asset allocation portfolio management background myself. So how I always think about my portfolio and how I advise my clients is, you have to evaluate your investments on a total portfolio basis, right? So think about your, risk appetites and think about the risk reward potentially. So think about it, from a holistic portfolio perspective. In that case, in my opinion, a small allocation to emerging asset class like cryptocurrencies sounds like a pretty good risk-adjusted reward play to me. Just not investment-wise, personal opinion.
Sorry. Yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you so much. And Takatoshi?
Yeah, on top of what everybody was saying is, if I think about DeFi, Bitcoin started out to decentralize finance, but in the whole realm, what Bitcoin really solved was being able to transfer value across without the banking system. And, other than that, it really just became a speculative asset class. And what the DeFi world has done is kind of create this whole financial industry where people can, deposit crypto and earn a yield. They can get mortgages or some kind of loans using cryptocurrency. I think that right now is kind of living in this whole crypto industry where people who are really have a good understanding of crypto and willing to take the risk. But I think to further that concept, it has to go on beyond that. When I first looked at Bitcoin, first I thought alternative to gold, but also at the same time, it was a way for people to transfer money across, trying to create having people who have no bank accounts or are underserved for financial services to be able to access that kind of capabilities. And I think DeFi, in its future, I hope that it will create this ecosystem where these people who are underprivileged, underbanked, to be able to access financial services that doesn't have to rely on a banking system.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of yes, allocation of capital, I mean, I think I kind of agree to everybody that you have to do a lot of kind of research. Being a value investor myself, and that was kind of my 2 decades worth of my financial experience. Do a lot of research in the beginning, but I don't really, unless you're sitting in front of the screen all day long, I don't really kind of recommend people to be heavily trading crypto all the time. I think it's more about doing your research first, finding out which one has the most value to you, and then holding on to that, for that investment for a long period of time. And I think that's the best way to, for at least for retail investors, especially, to get involved in this crypto
Yeah.
investing space.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you for, yeah, it's completely different strategy. Okay. And Musheer.
Look, I think all of them have touched on very important points here. The key for millennials is going to be education, right? As Annabelle said, research, understand your risk, and don't be jumpy because some influencer has said something. It could be Akon or it could be Jay-Z, right? Don't just follow them blindly. You may see a regulatory response to how influencers market cryptocurrencies, but it's going to be an important element for young people, that it's an introduction for them on investing, and it's a product class that they understand or feel connected to, right? Because it's a lot of their friends are talking about. Before this, how many millennials or very the Gen Z would be interested in stocks or trading of asset classes? This kind of gave them something that they could do with even $100 or $10,000, because of the beauty of how crypto can be broken down. But that means there is responsibility not just on the traders, but also from exchanges and other investment platforms to educate their users, right? If they're big failures, that will come back and bite them. So I think that's important. Very quickly on NFTs, it's an asset class that is an alternative asset class inside an alternative asset class, right? That's how I would call it. Where the growth is going to come led by artists, and it's yes, Beeple's art has gone for $69 million, but that was 5,000 pieces. It's an extensive collection, and this is modern way of value, right? The same thing goes with how Kings of Leon dropped their album on an NFT. So it's just a new modern representation. What NFT brings in is a newer paradigm for artists to have a perpetual share and return on their art or their whatever they've created, right? Earlier they would have a limited number of time, or they would sell their entire rights, or they would have maybe 30 years from which they could capitalize on whatever's been generated from their art. Now they have an opportunity to have that in perpetual. If that gets sold on later on, they get a piece, like say um, Leonardo da Vinci. He has created so many beautiful paintings, and he hasn't made any money on that per se, beyond maybe a few gold coins in his time, right? In the modern day, it's gone for millions or tens of millions of dollars, in some cases hundreds of millions of dollars, and there's no way for his family or the roots therein to get anything. So I think with NFT, you can actually do that. You have a source, you have a way of setting up through smart contracts a perpetual payment mode. And I think that's going to be the revolutionary part. If not for multiple lifetimes, at least for a artist's lifetime, that could be important. What that will do is it will make recording companies and other corporates who deal with artists to bring this into the context. Not that it doesn't exist for large players, it does to a certain extent, but now smaller artists can also demand the same, and they have a way of going D2C, as we call it in the fintech world, which is the direct to consumer, and that's what NFTs provide. Thank you.
Guys, and one more question. Do you remember in US they have a actually completely different situation with impact investment? And a lot of investors want to support to the special startups, and blockchain is it's one of the huge part of this. And what do you think? How it's look for the global market? How the impact investment can change like crypto management as well? And one more question about what is like the next big thing, technology, next big thing. Maybe it should be, I don't know, like a machine learning. Maybe it should be like a new artificial intelligence, like investor, like in BlackRock, they use this. Maybe something for the biotech technology, next gen systems, VR, AR, like self-tracking devices, biotech, green tech, maybe energy. What do you think, like in next 5 years, what we should like follow? Annabella, what do you think?
So I guess to your question of what's the next big thing, right? And that's hard to tell, but I think I'm personally very interested in the data part, and I think that's where blockchain can also play a part. Where now I think data is just be in the cloud, and it's hard to really track ownership, and but with blockchain we can have a decentralized ID, right? Everybody would have basically just one universal ID and to live in the digital world. And then a lot of the data storage can be, could be more transparent to us. Because right now, I don't know how Zoom, for example, or Facebook is really using the information. And I think with 5G, it is going to make it, a lot of things are going to be so customized and individualized, and going to be so much more data available, especially like on a personal, individual level. So I do think that is something that could be very interesting, and really treating data as an asset class, and having data living on the blockchain as an asset class, perhaps through a form of NFT or something like that, a tokenized data.
And centralized finance.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, Calvin, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the impact or the whole, environmental, social governance, ESG side of things, I think they're just a quick example would be, for example, like UNICEF, right? Obviously, nonprofit, United Nations organization. They are actually quite progressive enough such that they actually have a cryptocurrency fund to accept donations in cryptocurrencies. So while they're obviously on the other side will be focusing on all the humanitarian and nonprofit activity, but this kind of just shows just one of the many ways that cryptocurrencies can help directly, whether it's via donations, because at a fraction of a cost as you would from perhaps credit card fees or wire fees, etc. Right. So that's, I think, right there just a pretty simple examples of how this technology can use to help lead to greater goods by some of the participants in the industry. With respect to the next big thing, right? So I mean, AI, big data, machine learning, that's already been the buzzword for the past few years, in addition to the likes of blockchain, right? So I think we're just going to continue onto that path. I think the traditional Moore's law has been kind of on the verge of collapsing, in the sense that the technology is actually advancing much more rapidly than ever before. So obviously with 5G rolling now, right, you're going to have autonomous driving. I mean, we're going to see a car driving by itself pretty soon. I mean, we've already seen it, but it'll be more mass on our street. I'm pretty sure in our lifetime there will be people living on Mars. So all of these things are just we're at the beginning of kind of really big changes to come. But obviously, just to play it word of caution, right? I mean, I've seen social deliver on Netflix, right? How some of these tech companies use data, whether it's ethical or not, that's a separate discussion. But if used improperly, I think it could certainly set us back.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you so much. Yeah, Takatoshi.
Yeah. So yeah.
What do you like on your side? What do you think?
So I've been in touch with quite a lot of companies in Southeast Asia and South Asia as well, in terms of the blockchain space, where they wanted to use it for certain refugee camps, and they wanted to create a cryptocurrency that can be used within that refugee camp, and be able to kind of use kind of an OTC kind of system where they can change that into fiat. Those kind of things seem quite interesting. I've seen those things before. I've been contacted by a South Asian country that's trying to provide microfinance to a lot of their communities. And right now that everything is completely physical, they have a kiosk where they hand out loans to these people, but they wanted to make everything more digital. I mean, obviously everybody has a smartphone, or more or less everybody has a smartphone now, so they want to be able to get rid of these kiosks and be able to safely transfer money to people's wallets, and cryptocurrency was something that they've wanted to try out and see if they can really use it in that space. So yeah, I've been kind of involved in that projects as well. So I think there's a lot of interesting ways that the original kind of concept of cryptocurrency, why, why it was created, and the use case of it, it's really coming into fruition. And I think especially during this COVID times when everybody's locked up, I mean, I think a lot of people's imaginations are going pretty wild. And, I was talking to, people who are in the kind of creative side, and they were talking about this creative cocooning time that we're in right now. And and they think about, what happened during the kind of 1918s, 1990s during the Spanish flu. Then after that, it had the Roaring Twenties for a whole decade, where all the creations, interesting creations happened, like the radio and all these interesting concepts that came out of it really came out from like people who were stuck in their homes and thinking about, what kind of interesting things can I create out of this? So, all the technologies that you mentioned, I would say all of the above are very interesting. And I think that right now there's so many technologies that are available to us that all you have to do is just piece them together and see, what kind of creative things that you can do with it. And what keeps me very excited in a kind of more science fiction kind of realm is kind of like a world of Ready Player Go, where you can kind of go into like a virtual space and be able to interact with people across, borders, imaginary people, whatever they are. And, cryptocurrency can really be used in that space as well, because it just perfectly matches, what it's really designed for. So, I'm just really waiting for that kind of world to happen.
Wow, it's so amazing. Okay, sure.
Well, I'm going to talk about two things, right? One is, where does blockchain go from here? What can it be applied for? And mainstream adoption outside of financial services. We are already seeing the use of blockchain for provenance in vaccines, right? Singapore just
Yeah,
announced,
yeah.
Malaysia announced as well that
Mhm.
they will use blockchain for tracking the vaccination drive, and adds a value to the vaccine passport beyond just saying I've taken it, but you have the blockchain to track it. You are also seeing blockchain coming into voting. There was a discussion in the US about doing it. A lot of conversation about fake votes, recounts, etc. I come from India, the world's largest democracy, and we have 1.4 billion voters. Population, and a strong voter base, rather. And some of the states have started implementing and using blockchain for voting, which I feel in a couple of years' time would be very normal for many countries to do. So that's on one side. In terms of technologies, as with Takatoshi, I like his description, right? Go player one. World is possible in today's, if you would want to. We've all been in effective with COVID lockdowns. Some of us here in Hong Kong, including Calvin and I, have been lucky because we didn't have a full lockdown. But many countries have had full lockdowns and you couldn't step out. So if you had your VR lenses, which are all very sophisticated in today's world, you could be Go Player One, right? And you could be enjoying yourself or going away. And with NFTs, one of the things people are talking about is the alternative, the metaverse, right? Where you can buy properties or other things that can happen. And that's that culmination of blockchain with NFTs, with VR, AR world, which is coming together. Technologies like 5G, AI, etc., are just going to be enabling and optimizing that. My favorite tech, though, that's been accelerated due to 5G, is the ability to project holograms using your phone. There's
Wow.
a San Francisco startup, which is, the founder is a big fan of Star Wars. And now he's built this, they're building rather the app where you can just project a hologram right from your phone, right? And with 5G, you have very little loss of data packets, and the streaming is super fast. You couldn't do this 3-4 years ago, and it's because of the technology. We speaking about 5G, there's already conversations about 6G. So 3 years later, that's probably what will drive you. Even Microsoft has come out with a product which could be used for holograms for personal meetings, or sorry, rather for corporate meetings, right? So that's evolving. So this metaverse of in-person and virtual is going to blur, and you could be in the middle of a park somewhere, and you could have your hologram attending your meeting with your bosses in the boardroom if you wanted to. So it's going to mean a lot of freedom for people, and it's all conceptual 10, 20 years ago, but I think it's all coming to be a reality. You'll have more choice as an individual. That's what modern technology will give you.
Guys, it's amazing. And last question, share with us, it should be top 3 your amazing crypto startups, and maybe it should be advice for the startups, how they can survive during the COVID. And what is your prediction price for the Bitcoin at the end of the year, and who is the Satoshi? Yeah, like a 2-3 startups price for the Bitcoin, and who is Satoshi?
Maybe I'll let someone else to start this time.
Yeah,
I'm curious.
Yeah, what do you think?
Let me take a crack, right? Satoshi, Elon Musk, price of Bitcoin, 100,000 potentially. And
it's 100. Yeah, I'm totally agree.
yeah, so I think maybe 100,000 is an achievable price if the market, if more institutions come in. Not anything else. That's a speculation, not investment advice, and expectation
Yeah.
as a former trader. And startup to watch, I'm going to pick one that is here, which is to look at what Calvin and Hex Trust have been doing. It's a very interesting space, and with more institutionalization, you do need custody, and they're rocking at it. So yeah.
Yeah, guys, who wanna add something?
Thanks. Okay, since I was called on, so thank you, Musheer, and I'm happy to go. Bitcoin price, honestly, I have not even been. I know it's high. I don't know. I don't predict it. I just stopped following it. Since
it should go to Elon Musk.
Yeah, I've been involved in the early days, so my heart really can't handle the volatility anymore. So I just stopped looking at it altogether, and because I also don't trade actively anymore. Satoshi, absolutely no idea. Great white paper, so no clue, but kudos to him, her, they, them, all of that. Startup to watch. So this company is actually a client of mine. They're not a true startup in a sense. It's a startup of a conglomerate. It's a Huobi Asset Management. So they recently just got licensed by the Hong Kong SFC to issue the second virtual asset funds, and the first one with virtual asset fund with active strategy. So that kind of goes to Musheer's earlier point about regulation being kind of also one of the biggest tailwind of this industry. So more to come on that.
Oh, it's really great.
Yeah, for me too. I have no idea who Satoshi is. Crypto, Bitcoin price, I mean, no idea. I'd rather not even talk about it. And like Calvin, I don't even look at it on a daily basis anymore. Interesting crypto project. So I just kind of have a little shout out to my friend who's actually starting this. It's called Mint Interest. And what they do is, interoperability between different blockchain protocols to do kind of DeFi lending activities. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing beyond, because everybody knows that Ethereum's being clogged up right now with all these different dApps that are on top of it. So I think it only makes sense to be able to interoperate between different blockchain protocols to do, different types of decentralized finance activities. So there you go.
It's great. Annabelle.
Okay, well, Satoshi, I think it's a group of people. I feel like it would be so hard for one person to pull it off. But then the fact that nobody still don't know that any of them yet, it is so interesting. I think I would love to know who they are in my lifetime if possible. But maybe for the sake of the community, maybe it's better that we never find out. In terms of pricing, I mean, on the contrary, I probably look at it too much on a daily basis, and I've been through, the cycle before. So I think you're maybe 100K, maybe whatever. But I feel like, people shouldn't be discouraged if we go back to more of a slower pace. this community and the market itself, it has grown a lot compared to where we were a year ago, right? So I think wherever we are this year, at the end of this year, and wherever we might be for the next 3 years before maybe the next cycle, I think we should stay hopeful for the future. And in terms of startups to watch, I guess a bit of a shameless plug here, Keeper DAO, which is I wouldn't call it a startup, but it's a joint effort between Amber Group and Talos. And then it acts as an on-chain liquidity underwriter. For example, all the keepers who try to capture these arbitrage or liquidation opportunities on-chain between different DEXs or different decentralized lending protocols could join our DAO and then collaborate with each other, as opposed to going into gas bidding wars with one another. And then it should be game theoretically more optimal to do that. And then we've started doing that at the beginning of this whole DeFi boom last year, and then we're already seeing a lot of participants. I think with the growth in the online DeFi space, that's just going to be a lot more interesting in terms of what we can do as a DAO together.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for this time. It was really amazing. You really great speakers, a lot of insights, a lot of information. Thank you, Kevin, Annabelle, Takatoshi, and Musheer. And guys, see you on the next panel. Thank you, and invest in crypto. Support.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.